Dana LaMon, a member of Toastmasters since 1988, is a graduate of Yale and USC Law School, a retired judge, and the 1992 world champion of public speaking and an accredited speaker. He has given presentations to audiences in Asia, Africa, and more than half the states in the United States. The current total is 33. Even before Dana LaMon joined Toastmasters, he was giving presentations in schools and churches. He has given about 2,000 speeches. Before Dana competed in Toastmasters International's World Championship of Public Speaking, he participated in speech contests. In high school, he won gold medals for oratorical interpretation, poetry interpretation, and impromptu speaking. Today, Dana wants to give to you what he knows about making a powerful speech. For packing power in your presentations, please welcome distinguished Toastmaster, accredited speaker, world champion of public speaking, Dana LaMon.
Very good. Fellow Toastmaster, did you eat lunch?
Yes!
Did you drink beer?
No!
You sound disappointed about that. In 1985, I was having left the job. I was standing waiting for my wife to pick me up. And I was standing at the curb on a quiet street. It was a quiet street, not much traffic. It was dark. And I hear a car coming down the street, and by the time it gets even with me, it slows down and it passes me and then stops. And I had a little bit of concern because I'm the only one standing out there. The driver got out and he came up to me and he says, "I remember you. About 5 years ago, you came to my church and you gave a speech titled, 'A Little Child Shall Lead Them.' And you used the acronym CHILD to talk about 5 characteristics of a leader. You talked about courage and honesty, integrity, love, and determination." And I'm thinking to myself, I do not remember that speech. But he remembered the speech from 5 years. And I said, now that's good. If you give a speech and someone remembers it 5 years later to the point that they're actually telling you the main points of your speech, you've done a very good job as a speaker. And that's what I want you to be able to do. See, when I give a speech, I want to be clear, I want to be understood, I want to be followed, and I want to be remembered. Not so much that they remember me, Dana LaMon, but remember what was said. That's the objective when I prepare a speech. And that's why I came up with this presentation, Packing Power in Your Presentation. And I want to share with you what I do. Now, what I do is not, this is it, this is the solution, this is the only way. In fact, you could have a district conference consecutive and have each world champion since, how far back? 1927, I think, is when we started the World Championship, although I don't think that person's around now. You can have as many world champions come up and they will talk about this is the way, to give a speech. Because everybody has their idea. And what their idea is, basically, do what I did, is what they're trying to tell you, because they won, right? So they should be encouraging you to do what they did. I'm sharing you what I do as a professional speaker and as a speaker working with Toastmasters, and I found it to be effective. I found it to have impact on people, and I find that people remember it. That's what I'm sharing with you. I hope you have your pens and your pads out, ready to take notes. Share it with your fellow Toastmasters who are not here. This is the first step. No, maybe it's not the first step, but one of the early steps in getting 150 people here next spring. is take back what you learned, and they say, ooh, I want to go next time, you know, because they don't want it secondhand, they want to hear it firsthand, so that's what you want to do. Packing power in your presentation. You got handouts, right?
Yep.
And you know why you have handouts, right?
Yep.
Why do you have handouts?
Copious notes.
Thank you. To keep me in line. That's the purpose of your notes there. All right. So the power comes from purpose, organization, wow, entertainment, and remuneration. That's the acronym. I love acronyms, right? The guy remembered my speech because I used child in A Little Child Shall Lead Them. I love to use acronyms. So there's where the power is, and we'll start with purpose. There has to be purpose to your presentation. The purposes that I list there as powerful purposes are to inform. That is to say, you're giving a speech to give information. So if you're conducting a training session, talking about a new process that you're going to use on your job, talking about how to become a distinguished Toastmasters club in your club meetings, that's to inform. To persuade. Salespeople do that. They want to persuade you to purchase something. A politician will do that. They want to persuade you to cast your vote in a certain direction. To motivate. Now, I have a little problem with to motivate in the sense that I believe that motivation comes from within. Another person can't motivate you, but I still label myself as a motivational speaker. My job is to give you, I define motivation as being having a compelling reason to act. So my job is to help you search for that compelling reason, or help you find that compelling reason, and therefore I call myself a motivational speaker. So if you're speaking to motivate, you're helping people to find that compelling reason to act. Speaking to inspire through your own stories or experience. Inspiration comes on them and they act. Then you have speaking to entertain. Oh no, wait a minute. Oh, motivation, I'm sorry. Help me. You're supposed to be keeping me in line. Motivation and inspiration go together. I'm sorry. Then you have entertain, speaking to entertain. So a person who is a storyteller is speaking to entertain. A humorist, an after dinner speaker, they're speaking to entertain. And then you have speaking to engage. That's the term I use for people who are discussion leaders. If you want to have a debate, you're speaking to engage. I used to teach Sunday school many years ago. I used the Socratic method of teaching in Sunday school. I learned it in law school, the Socratic method, but I used it in Sunday school. And I would make outrageous statements just to get the people engaged, get them to open their Bibles and start flipping through trying to prove my statement wrong. So then I got them engaged. I got them thinking. I got them, using their information that they had. That's speaking to engage. Those are the 5 powerful purposes. And by the way, for those of you who may be interested in an accredited speaker, those are the 5 categories you have to fill when you do your accredited speaker application. You have to have a distribution of 25 speeches in those 5 categories. It doesn't have to be an even distribution, but you have to have at least one speech in each of those 5 categories. Now, there are some pitiful purposes. And we sometimes engage in those pitiful purposes. Sometimes people speak just to be heard. Sometimes people speak just to fill up the time. Sometimes people speak just to complete the manual. Those are the pitiful purposes. Even though you want to complete your competent communication manual or your advanced manual, whatever it is, yes, you can want to complete it, but you still have to have a purpose for the presentation beyond the fact that you want to complete the manual. You still have to determine, is it to inform? Is it to persuade? Is it to motivate or inspire? Is it to engage? Is it to entertain? So if you do the humorous speaking manual, for example, they set it out for you. It's to entertain. Or the entertaining speaker, those projects are to entertain. But speaking to inform, what is that for? It's to inform. What about storytelling? What is that for? Mostly to entertain, right. So it could be to motivate, it could be to inspire, but here's what the manuals have projects, they have purpose built in, so please don't just, I'm speaking to finish project 5 so I can get my CC. Have a purpose beyond that. So purpose, that's the first part of powerful. Let me make a side note here, and those of you who maybe don't identify yourselves, I don't like contestants to identify themselves, so don't do it. But those of you who are in the evaluation contest, I may make some comments about evaluation during this presentation here. Ignore everything I say when you get up there and do your evaluation, all right? Don't try to incorporate what you just heard. Do what you had planned to do all along. All right, but when I teach evaluation seminars, I tell the people the first thing you should do is identify the purpose of the speech so far as you could ascertain. How can you give feedback to the speaker as to how well they did if you don't know what they were trying to do? You have to know what they were trying to do, because if they were trying to persuade and you weren't persuaded, then what you give as your feedback in the evaluation will be different than if they were trying to inform and you weren't informed. So consider the purpose when you're giving your evaluations at your club. What was the purpose of that speech? And then give feedback based on that. Organization. The second point of power is organization. Oh, by the way, this is a workshop, not a keynote. Your program says keynote. Keynote to me means I do all the talking. Workshop means you do some of the talking. And you can ask questions, by the way. If questions come to your mind, I don't like to have to save my questions to the end, so I don't like to have to make other people do it. So if you have questions in your mind, you can ask when we're there. Raising your hand won't do anything for me. So you're going to have to call out my name or something, somehow get attention that you have a question. Organization. Now here's what you hear Toastmasters say most often. Now tell me if you've heard this. Your speech was organized. You had an opening, a body, and a conclusion. Have you heard that? Have you said, oh, see, he caught it before I could get the question. Have you said it, right? And here, let me tell you something. Listen carefully. Inasmuch as the speech began, it had an opening. Inasmuch as it continued for some period of time, it had a body. Inasmuch as they eventually sat down, it had a conclusion. So simply to say there was an opening and a body and a conclusion tells the speaker absolutely nothing. And that's why I offer to you the hook, the hammer, and the hinge. The hook, the hammer, and the hinge. Because this talks about what should happen during the opening and the body and the conclusion. In the hook of your speech, you've got to get the audience. You've got to get their attention. Let them know what your speech is going to be about. I can't remember all the details, please forgive me, and I didn't think about looking it up, but I wrote an article for Toastmasters magazine, November 2007 issue. I talk about 4 questions that your audience is going to ask within the first 30 seconds that you start speaking. And you will want to get a yes response to those 4 questions. this is really mean to give you such a teaser and not be able to, and I can't tell you what the 4 questions are. So, but if you go look up the article, it's there. November, I think you can go in archives online. November 2007. But your audience, I can give you some of it, I just can't give you exact. They're thinking, should I listen to this person? Do they have something to give me? Should I worry about remembering it and using it? They're making those judgments in the very beginning. So if your opening doesn't answer those questions, you're in big trouble. The other day, I guess she's young, a young lady gave an icebreaker in one of the Toastmasters clubs in which I attend. And she started off stating her name and what the title of her speech was. And the Toastmaster had already stated her name and said what the title of her speech was. So she didn't need to do that. She wasted seconds in this 30-second judgment that the audience is going to make. Your hook, you got to hook them by asking a question, for example, or making a statement, asking them to consider, asking your audience to consider something. The speech that, see this is mean too, but the speech that I would have given you last night, I start off with, I'd like for you to imagine a blind man driving. Okay, so I'm giving you something to do to participate in my speech. You can ask a survey. How many of you have ever been to Walt Disney World? You can start off with that survey and ask. But your question has to relate to the subject of your speech. Don't just ask a question just to ask. And certainly don't tell a joke. You've heard people say tell a joke at the beginning of a speech. Have you heard that? Yeah. I've heard it. The thing is, humor is good. You can start your speech with humor, but not tell a joke. And here's why. Because most jokes have been heard already. So if you start off with a joke that the audience has already heard, the judgment that they're making in those first 30 seconds is, they're about to tell me something I already know. And then if you tell the joke and if you don't tell it as well as they heard it before, then the judgment they'll be making is, and it ain't gonna be good. So don't start with jokes. Figure out a humorous story that happened in your life. You can start with that, but not with a joke. So hook. You want to get the audience hooked in. Why they should be listening to you. The hammer. That's the second part of the organizational structure. The hammer. These are the points. Oh, and before I go, I have to back up because one of the other things you want to do in your hook, actually there are 2 other things you want to do in your hook. One is to tell them what your presentation proposition is. What is a presentation proposition? That's a one single solitary statement that sums up your whole speech. So that if you meet someone in the elevator, you've heard people talk about your elevator pitch. If you meet someone in the elevator and they say, what is your speech going to be about? You'll be able to give them that one clear sentence. That's your presentation proposition. And it should be stated in your hook. And the other thing you should do in your hook is lay out a map for them on how you're going to present your presentation proposition. So you tell them what the structure is going to be. Don't be afraid to give it away. So when I talk about the 4 E's of excellence and I say I'm going to share with you 8 principles, improvement, development, movement, tenacity, adjustment, possibilities, teamwork, and leadership, I'll tell you that at the beginning of my speech. Am I afraid I'm giving my speech away? No. In fact, what I want to do is give my speech away. So I'm going to do that in the hook. Now you can make a judgment as to whether you want to listen. All right? So, I have to share this story with you about the importance of the presentation proposition. I listened to a guy give a speech at a regional competition. Guess where it was? Honolulu. Yeah, it was. It was in Honolulu. It was, you see, I tried in 90 to get there and I didn't. In 98, my friend Kevin, he wasn't my friend at the time, we became friends as a result of his competing, but he gave a speech. He asked me to give him an evaluation of it afterwards. So the next morning we got up at 6 o'clock in the morning, had breakfast together, and I told him about his speech. And the concern I had is I could not figure out what his speech was about. Like, what's that one clear sentence? He gave a great speech, he had a great voice. I mean, he did a lot of things well, but I couldn't figure out that one thing. So this is why, when I got up that morning, I said, first question I'm going to ask him is, what was your speech about? And I expected him to ramble, because some people, when you ask them, they give a 5-minute speech and you ask them what was their speech about, it takes them 5 minutes to tell you what their 5-minute speech was about. You want to be able to do one clear, concise sentence. He, boom, 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 gave me this one clear, concise sentence and almost knocked me over. You know, I'm thinking, wow, he answered that question. What's my follow-up? Aha, I had a follow-up. I said, how many times did you say it in your speech? He said, 0. See, and that's a problem. Your presentation proposition, you have to state it in your hook, repeat it in your hammer, and actually give it in your hinge as well. Because here's the thing. Audience out here, you have 75 people, 80 people out in the audience. I give a speech up here. That means there's 81 speeches in that room. The one I gave and the 80 that were heard. And if I want a chance that the 80 heard is the same as the one that I gave, I've got to be willing to repeat my proposition as often as I can so that you'll get what it is. So I asked Kevin, I said, so you didn't state your proposition? He said, well, I gave them A, I gave them B, I gave them C, I assume they'll put it together. You can't do that. Well, they will put it together, but it may not be the way you want to put it together. Some people would have put it together, it would have come out as A, B, C, and other people it would have been back, and another people it would be cab, and another person it would be A, C, B. I mean, it twists all around. And then some people would have missed maybe one point of your speech, so they got to A and they got to C and they missed the B, so they don't know what to put together. So restate your presentation proposition. In the hammer. Now you're hammering the point home. And in a 5 to 7 minute speech, maybe 3 points you want to give, not more than that. You can't give 4 or 5 points in a 5 to 7 minute speech. If you have to give a 45-minute speech, yeah, then you can be longer. I still try to break mine into groups of 3 if I can. I won't go higher than, I can't. I'd be lying if I said it because I had 8 points this morning, right? That's why I gave you a handout, because I had 8 points. If I don't give you a handout, I'm going to break things down into groups of 3 to help you with it. 3, maybe 4. So you want to break it down, your points, so that people can get them, so they can follow them, and label them so they can follow them. So use an acronym. Use numbering if you want. Use alphabets if you want. Someone sent me a cassette of a speech. A lady was talking at a women's conference, and she had put on, take off, put on, take off. And I'm listening to the speech, and she had one starting with an A. Put on, take off anger, put on amiability. I can't remember it, so I'm making it up. You know, take off. Belligerent, and put on be kind or something like that. So I'm sitting listening and I said, this is kind of clever. A, B, C. She did D. And then I began to wonder, I wonder how far she's going to go. E, F, G. I said, surely she's going to be wrapping up soon. H, I, J. She went all the way to Z, ladies and gentlemen. So you know how awful that is, right? That's 26 put on, 26 take off. Who's going to remember all that? Can't be remembered. So make sure that you don't overload and that you organize them in such a way or arrange and group them in such a way so it's easy to follow them. Then in the hinge is when you close the deal. This is when the deal is closed. So what are you going to do here? You're going to summarize what you covered. You're going to repeat your presentation proposition, and then you're going to tell your audience what you want them to do with it. So if it's speaking to persuade, ask them to buy, if that's what you're trying to do. Ask them for your vote, if you're trying to get them to vote. If it's speaking to inform, simply summarize and say, so I shared with you, and now you have the information necessary, so the next time the ground starts shaking, you know what the first thing to grab is, or whatever it is that you're doing, speaking to inform. If you didn't figure that out, that was for earthquake preparedness. So be sure to close the deal. That's what the hinge is all about. So, the next time you give an evaluation, is it an opening, a body, and a conclusion?
No.
No, what is it?
Okay.
Okay, you take that back to your club, they'll be impressed with you. Wow. The next element of power is wow. And here's the chance for you to show off your speaking skills. What is it about your speaking that people are attracted about? They like the way you move about the stage, right? So I don't do it. I move a lot, but I don't know why I move. So movement is not my strength. People don't say, Dana, I really like your speech because I like the way you handle the stage. That's not what I get compliments for. People say, Dana, I like your voice. You really, ooh, your voice. That's what I hear most often. Or organization. I get compliments on how my speech is organized and makes it easy to follow. Whatever it is that is your strength, this is the time for you to show it in your wow. This is the wow factor. I talk about the sizzle and I talk about the sound bite. They're two different ways of putting that wow in. One is the sizzle, in which I refer to the things that you do well. So it's your voice, it's your gestures, it's your movement. Maybe you're a dancer and you just flow about the stage and you have that movement about it and you just mesmerize people as you move. Maybe that's what it's all about. Maybe it's your research, the studies that you've done, the information that you've gathered. Whatever your strength is, here's where you put it in. This is what distinguishes you. This is what gets people to listen to Nancy instead of listening to Joe. You know, we're not here trying to create Toastmasters all who sound alike. You have to distinguish yourself with your skill. And here's where you put it in. Your sizzle are the skills that you do well. Those Toastmaster skills, oh, you know them all. You know, your storytelling ability, your humor, maybe, your gestures, your whatever it is. Now, the sound bites are when you put little phrases or words in your speech that gets people's attention and they remember. I'm going to give you some examples, and I want you to shout out who you think of when you hear it. You ready?
Ready.
I have a dream.
Martin Luther King.
Now, he is not the only man that's ever dreamed. But I said, I have a dream, and you guys came up with Martin Luther King Jr. That's a soundbite. How about, and this will throw you off just a little bit, but what about this one? Don't stop thinking about tomorrow. No. Huh?
Clinton.
I'll take the Clinton. Those people who said Clinton, that's yeah, it is Fleetwood Mac, but and every time I do it, I get some Fleetwood Mac group and I get some Clinton group. So there you go. Those are people who like entertainment, and then the other people who like politics. That's what you got. What about this? Yes, we can. Yes, we can. What is that? Barack Obama, right? Okay, so those are sound bites. Now, do you remember the 2005 World Championship of Public Speaking? No. The person who won that contest throughout his speech said, cha-ching.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Now, who was it?
Lance Miller.
Lance Miller. See? There you go. Cha-ching. That's a sound bite. And there are people, I hear people, that was 2005. That was 7 years ago. And when you say cha-ching, people say, Lance Miller. Those people who know Toastmasters, of course. Now, from 1992, do you remember the 1992 World Champion of Public Speaking? No. Were there any sound bites in it? No. So that's why you can't give me anything. What was the title of the speech?
Excellent.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good. You just heard it yesterday, though, right? Yeah, it was titled Take a Chance. But I didn't have any real sound bites in my speech. In fact, from sound bites, cha-ching is the only one I remember from World Championships. But here's a chance for you to put something in your speech. Well, I'll give you an example. There was a guy in our club did a speech. It was a humorous speech. And remember the days when the telephone companies would send you a check for $50 or $75, and if you signed the check, it's an authorization for them to switch Your telephone company? Yep. Do you remember those days? This guy used to, he did a speech about it, and every time he got a check, he said, "Such a deal." And I remember the speech because it's such a deal. And he talked about how his telephone, he's going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. He's going from company to company because every time he got a $75 check, he said, "Such a deal." So those are what I mean by sound bites. You can put little things, little phrases, little sounds in your speech that people remember and identify you with that speech. Any questions? Because I've covered 3 of 5. I only have 2 more to go. All right. Number 4 is entertainment. Entertainment, okay? Entertainment. Now, why is it important to put entertainment in your speech?
Your audience gets bored easily.
Okay?
Keep them interested.
Keeping interest, people's minds start wandering.
So they remember.
Increase memory.
It's a way to engage.
It's a way to engage.
Learn most when they're having fun.
Say that again, about the having fun?
People learn most when they're
They're having, yeah. You hung out with Ralph Smedley, huh? People learn more when they're having fun. But the simple reason is the first one. Is very simply, if they're not entertained, they're bored. Those are your 2 choices. Entertain them or bore them. Now I have an assignment for you. What do you do? Now ladies and gentlemen, get ready to write some of these answers down. I'll tell you which ones to write down and which ones to forget it. That's not a good one. All right? What do you do for entertainment? Don't write that down, that's not a good one.
Karaoke.
Karaoke. So you go singing.
Yeah.
Okay, write that down. What else?
Dancing.
Dancing. Write that down.
Reading.
Did you say weaving or reading?
Reading.
Reading or weeding? No, I'm just kidding. She says reading. So reading. Write that down. Movies. Write that down. Video games. Write that down. I want to go back to the reading. What do you read?
I have 2 categories of reading. One that's toward a purpose, and one I call mindless fluff, which is everything else.
And what category does this speech fill?
I may have to make a new category.
Oh, okay. Somewhere between purpose and mindless fluff, huh? Okay, so reading. Some people read novels, some people read nonfiction. Okay, reading. What else?
Sports.
Don't be afraid to say it. Go ahead.
Sports.
Sports. What kind? Be specific.
Disc golfing.
What did you say?
Disc golfing.
Frisbee golf.
Golfing?
Frisbee golf.
Oh, okay.
Cycling.
Cycling? What else?
Bowling.
Bowling?
Running.
Running?
Ping pong.
What was it way over here?
Ping pong.
Drinking.
Somebody said drinking? It's not a sport.
The way we do it is.
Yeah, it's mindless fluff.
Parks and malls.
Okay, anything else you do for entertainment?
People watching.
People watching.
Oh, yeah.
Don't write that down. What's it? What else?
You would write that down if you came to the Iowa State Fair ever.
When is it?
August.
August. No, maybe next August. All right. What else? There's one that I haven't heard yet, so I'm going to keep going until I hear it.
I find my family entertaining.
I find my family entertaining too, but I wouldn't write it down. What? Television is like movies, but I'll let you write that down. Okay, what else?
Gardening.
What did you say?
Gardening.
Gardening. So you're to the weeding. We're at the weeding
Right.
point, all right? Okay, you can do that. That's what you do for entertainment. That's okay. You can write that down.
Theater.
Theater. Okay.
I go
Right.
to Toastmasters.
Yeah, we
That's
heard that already.
entertaining. Over and over.
You go to Toastmasters for entertainment,
Yeah.
so you can people watch and drink. So there were 185 Toastmasters who walked into Okay, but they weren't able to walk out. Okay, I still haven't heard the one I want to hear.
Writing.
Vacation, okay.
Sex.
The guy said sex.
Write that one down.
I'm going to let you decide whether you want to write that. How about comedy? Do you go to comedy shows or listen to comedy shows? Yeah, for entertainment. Now, I had to get that one in. So, you have your list of what people do for entertainment. Now you know what people do for entertainment. You know what entertains people. Put it in your speech. You know that people are entertained by it. So, those people who are entertained by reading, they like to hear stories or watch movies. Maybe in your speech you put a video up as a supplement to your presentation. Maybe you sing in your speech. See if I have time for this story. Yes. I have time, right, Joe?
Yes.
6? Really? Let me see my time. I didn't like your time. Okay. Okay, so in the 1992 regional speech that I did, for some reason I wasn't in the mood for being in the contest. I just didn't want to be there. My wife even made the observation. She said, "What's wrong with you? You're like a mole in a hole. It's like, this is not where you want to be." And I said, "I don't know. I don't feel like being there." And I went to the contest and I picked speaker number 7 of 8. So I listened to the first speech and I said, I can do better than that. And I listened to the second speech and I said, I can do better than that one too. And we got all the way to speaker number 6. Speaker number 6 talked about her dream of singing at the Metropolitan Opera House. And it got my attention because I had planned that in my speech I was going to sing. I'm not a singer. So it's okay for me to sing if I'm not a singer. But it's not okay for me to sing and not be a singer if the person speaking before me is a professional singer. So I'm sitting and listening to her talk about her dream of getting to the Met, and I'm thinking, don't sing. Don't sing. Because I thought I had this great tool, and she's going to kill it. And then after she spoke, the audience applauded so loudly. I said, she's the person I have to beat. And she didn't sing. So I had titled my speech, "And the Winner Is." And the Toastmaster announced, speaker number 7, Dana LaMon, and the winner is. And the winner is Dana LaMon. And I walked to the lectern and I said, born to lose, I've lived my life in vain. Every dream has only brought me pain. Now, I'm not a singer, but I figure I could get away with it. Why? Because number one, I titled my speech, and the winner is. So the audience have to think, why is he singing about born to lose? And I wanted to bring out the contradiction, the fact that we were actually born to win, but somehow something happens in our lives that make us think we were born to lose. Anyway, so that was my speech. I can't give it to you. I don't remember it. That's the only part I remember. But I put a song in, remember? Entertain. People are entertained by music, so there's nothing wrong with singing in your speech. There's nothing wrong with, let's see, people are entertained by sports, so give them activities. Now, I'm not one of those activity speakers, but there are a lot of motivational speakers that say, all right, everybody, we want you to stand, hold your hands way up, and they start giving you exercises to do. You know, this is help you lose weight, and whatever it is, keep you awake. I don't do that. I call that kinetic aids. You're expending energy. But people are entertained by sports. They like activity. So put activities in your speech. Let me make sure I covered them all. Of the things that you can put in your speech, because we talked about storytelling, humor, put humor in your speech, movies and videos, music, activities, yeah, I got them. Okay, you got them all. So that's what entertainment is all about. Put it in your speech. Don't think that you just have to stand and talk. You have to go do research and tell everybody what you learned from the encyclopedia. It's got to be entertainment. And then there's the remuneration. Remuneration. That's the R in the power. There's got to be a payoff for the speaker. There's got to be a payoff. They've sat and listened to you. They should get something from it. So here is the remuneration. Let me read this list to you so I don't miss any of it. And so I end what I'm supposed to, because Joe said my time's up. If it's speaking to inform, the remuneration should be knowledge. If it's speaking to inspire, yes, when speaking to motivate or inspire, there should be inspiration or stimulation. If it's speaking to persuade, there should be solutions. Speaking to entertain, there should be entertainment. And if they're speaking to engage, there should be something to think about. So here are the payoffs again: knowledge, inspiration, stimulation, solutions, entertainment, and something to think about. If you look at it, that acronym is KISSES, but since KISSES really don't have anything to do with power in your presentation, I didn't lay it out like KISSES, but that'll help you remember it. Your audience should be kissed by you. They get some kisses from what you do. That's the payoff, the remuneration. All right, any questions?
Take a chance, take a chance, take a chance, take a chance. Remember ABBA's song?
No, I don't.
Well, that's what I was thinking of entertainment when you had that title.
Okay. Questions once? Questions twice? I'm going to be out here. You can ask me questions all day long. I hope that you have information necessary to give a presentation that people will remember 5 years after you have given it. Because if you want them to remember, you have to make sure that it has purpose, organization, wow, entertainment, and remuneration, fellow Toastmasters.
Go!